everybody from the break. Welcome back. Welcome back from the live commercial break. We had a good time. Awesome. We got a chance to walk around, see some really interesting people. I got to meet a lot of people outside in the audience. And it's always the woohoo. I've never gotten woohoo over PropTech before, have you?
I have not.
This is a first. Everything's a first. And I want to welcome you to first, the PropTech House. Thank you guys so much for coming out to the PropTech House, South by Southwest. Welcome to Austin, Texas. And I'm super, super excited about this particular panel. This is more so, you would hear this kind of a while ago, they would call this a fireside chat. I like to call this a live podcast.
I like that idea.
Yes. I like to call it more of a podcast. How many people listen to podcasts? That's just a question. How many people? Oh, can somebody tell me what's your favorite podcast? Let's see. Raise your hand if you... Okay, your hand went up first.
How I Built This.
What?
That's a good one. That's one of my favorite ones too.
How I Built This? Okay, anybody else? Okay, your hand.
Hidden Brain. Hidden Brain.
Say that again?
Hidden Brain.
Ooh, okay, that's a good... I've heard that one too.
I've heard of it. I haven't listened to it.
No? Not yet. Okay, anybody on this side of the room?
Gotta shout out Austinpreneur.
What? Austinpreneur?
I haven't heard of that one, but I'm gonna check it out.
I'm gonna definitely check that out. And what was yours? Well, okay, well now you do. You've got 3 options. You've got 3 options. It's so funny that how I built this.
Can I plug a podcast?
I don't see why not.
One of my co-founders, he has a podcast called Beat the Odds, so definitely check that out. It's a great podcast about VC, venture capital, things of that nature, so definitely think it's a great one to check out.
Okay, awesome. I think it's interesting that one of the favorite podcasts, I was waiting for somebody to say it, and it's ironic that was the first one said, is how I built this. Everyone in the tech space is obsessed with how I built this, and this conversation kind of dives in a bit like how I built this, because I'm going to learn more about what you're building with your company, and what you built, and also as far as what people can really take from technology to see what they can build in the space and how they can leverage those technical tools in order to do so. In case you guys weren't here earlier, I want to welcome Arthur to the stage. And Arthur, you know I always have a time with this last name. Say it for everybody so we can get it right.
Yeah, Arthur Bernier Jr.
Say that again.
Arthur Bernier Jr.
Bernier. Right? I love the ring. Arthur Bernier. It's fantastic. And Arthur is a CTO. And one of the things that I think is so fascinating is a lot of times in tech, you never meet CTOs. Have you noticed that?
I have.
Yes. It's kind of like this unicorn. Yeah, I'm saying it on purpose. It's kind of like this unicorn role that you come across in a CTO. And I find the role absolutely fascinating. So I'm happy to have you here. Welcome today to the PropTech House. Arthur, I really am excited that you flew in for this. This is amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And just to kind of introduce you guys to Arthur, and talked about this earlier on the Future of Real Estate panel, Arthur and his team raised $3.2 million at 7th Ave, and he was the CTO on that team. And can you tell people a bit what a CTO is and what that role consists of?
If you ask 10 different people, you're going to have 10 different answers. But essentially, that is the person in the C-suite that makes all technology decisions for the company. That is the most, boiled down version of it.
That is the most boiled down version of it. And that, when you look at a CTO, that is a Chief Technology Officer. And typically, I know from the ranks in Silicon Valley, it takes years to get to that level, because you're starting off, especially if you're working at like Google or someplace, you're going all these different levels to get to that point. And I just want to set the stage of your expertise in the area as a CTO as we dive into what it is that is changing the landscape of real estate, whether it be artificial intelligence, machine learning, whether it's data science, and what that looks like in execution to smart contracts, and what that looks like to land registry or title management, or even managing residential and commercial spaces, and what that really entails. And can you tell us a bit about what is your technical expertise?
Yeah, my technical expertise specifically is dealing with APIs. So I have worked pretty extensively in building APIs, creating documentation for APIs, and making it so that, for example, if you, to give an example, let's say everybody's familiar with Twitter, if you wanted to pull in tweets on some other website, there needs to be an API set up that allows you to be able to integrate with that and put it into your code. And so that is the thing that I specialize in: building, creating, architecting, API design.
And I think that a lot of people here familiar with API? Okay, I saw hands. Hands went up and I heard a lot of no's. So I love that aspect. So one thing about APIs is I think it's the most important part of building a networking community, because if you can't aggregate that data and if you can't really build it out and give other people access to it, you can't really grow a product. Would you agree with that?
I agree, and the way that I normally talk about APIs, so like when I'm teaching and things like that, I normally focus on the fact that you can think of an API as like we're in a restaurant right now, right? And there's a menu, right? On that menu, you can order something, and then what's going to happen is then the waiter or something like that's going to go to the back, go grab it from the chefs in the kitchen, and bring it to the front, right? And then you're going to get a chance to consume it. That's how an API essentially works. Like you look at the menu as the way that you interact with the API, and you pick what you want, and then the software is going to go ahead and say, okay, this is what you want. Let me go to the database. Let me go to my data. Let me grab it. Let me give it to you, right? And that's essentially like the general thing of an API. And I would do this whole thing. I'd print out a whiteboard and draw it and do all the stuff like that. But you don't have time for all that stuff.
You guys can follow him online for that. So as far as your technical experience relates to technology, I want to dive into a couple of, shall I say, buzzwords. Because as we were standing outside, even today at the PropTech house, someone walked up and said, "Oh my God, Liberty, have I missed the AI conversation? Have I missed the AI conversation? Because I really want to know more." Can you talk about what does artificial intelligence and the explosion of the, I would say, consumer-facing AI opportunities and applications, what does that look like specifically related to the real estate industry?
Yeah, definitely. I won't talk too much about like how to actually build AI stuff, because I don't think anybody really wants to know that at the moment. If you do want to know, shameless plug, contact me. I'll tell you all about it. But long story short, you want to really not overthink what AI is, and really what you want to kind of realize is that all AI is going to do is make certain things that we have to do that takes more work, make it easier for it to be, right? It's going to take away the need to do a lot of individual person-to-person like computational tasks. Take away the need to analyze data that you're looking at. I just did a class for Capital One for their data analysts about like maybe 7-8 months ago, and we did a whole class talking about those things. And at the end of the day, more and more organizations in the property space, in the banking space, et cetera, are seeing the ability to be able to take these large seas and pools of data and essentially and to, how can I say, to categorize it in different ways that makes it easier for you to be able to build these fantastical applications that do all these great tasks that now humans can now focus on things that make money or things that only humans can do. So it's really just, it's heightening the human aspect. So because only humans can only do certain things, and then those things that humans don't need to do can get done by a computer or an application or something like that.
You just hit on so many things that I find absolutely fascinating, and I feel that some people may find terrifying. What you just said was the technology, obviously gathering data, clean data, and leveraging that to build out different points with AI to execute tasks to increase efficiency sounds like you're taking my job. Like you just said a bunch of fancy words that said, but what about me? What about my job? Should people in the real estate space or in the industries as a professional, should they fear this, or what does that look like?
My short answer is no. You shouldn't fear it, because regardless of whether you fear it or not, it's still going to come. So instead of fearing it, the fact that you know about it ahead of time allows you to be able to adapt to the changes that are going to happen. Just like there were some people that feared e-commerce. It was like, oh my goodness, nobody's going to ever come into a store ever again. You know, that's not the case. But companies like Amazon and things like that, when they've been able to exist, obviously before that technology was available. As long as you start positioning yourself and learning about how to interact with these technologies, it's going to just make you that much more marketable, that much more ahead of the crowd, and more ready to service the people that are coming behind us. For example, I'm a millennial. Millennials want to do stuff with technology. That's what we're used to doing. We grew up ever since we were teenagers, and some people even younger than that with that at our fingertips. And in Gen Z, they've never not had access to technology. So when Gen Z people turn 40 and 45, they don't want to hear anything about facts. They don't want to hear anything about any of that type of stuff. They want to know, how can I do it the most efficient way? How can I use the technology that I'm used to? And how can we make this make this work?
I think you said a lot of things that are interesting as far as not fearing it. I agree with you. I absolutely agree, and I think that at least when people come to me and say, hey, what kind of role does technology play in the PropTech space? I always like to say it increases efficiency. But when I hear the cause or the cause for concern with increased efficiency, it turns into, well, typically you may need 50 men to build this house. And that's the traditional way to build this house, and you may need 50 men to do it, and now you need 2 and a computer. So it's not necessarily the space where you should fight against technology. You should learn what is coming and what you should do in order to align yourself with it. And one of the things that I always like to bring up is, did you know that Netflix tried to get Blockbuster to acquire them? And most people don't know that. And it's an interesting take on it, because at some point you have to know you can't hide from technology. You can't act like it's not there. You have to adapt it and see how it's best going to be beneficial for you in a way. And one of the things that I like to say whenever I'm giving a talk is, don't get blockbustered. Don't get blockbustered with the, oh no, this can't change my industry, or this is not happening for me. One of the things that I think is important going forward in the future, especially as far as PropTech goes, is using data to streamline the purchase of residential and commercial. Where do you see that going from the consumer side, from the real estate professional side? Where do you see that going?
Just AI or just technology in general?
Both.
Okay, so there's a lot of different parts. If you think about the whole entire flow of purchasing a property and going from seeing a property, knowing that that's the property that I want, buying it, going through the whole entire process and moving into the property, there's a bunch of steps that happen in there. Some of those, for example, being doing a title search and things of that nature, or recording a title. And
why is that hard? And I say that because I hear from people, oh my God, it's so hard. I can't find this title. Why is this difficult?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it depends on what county you're in. I mean, it's probably more difficult or less difficult. I don't know exactly how it runs in Austin, so I can't really say. But in Georgia, it's fairly simple. You just have to go ahead and go to a website, and it's right there, and you can pretty much see, who owns the property and things of that nature. But then when it comes to actually making sure the title's clear and doing searches and all that stuff like that, that's why you have to go through a title company in order to make that happen. And I don't personally see that changing. We don't need to go to a title company to make that happen, but I see the mechanism for how we are able to look up that information, or how to record the information possibly changing with the embracing of things like blockchain technology. Because essentially, you can use blockchain in order to be the mechanism to record a title. I'm pretty sure all of us have heard of non-fungible tokens and things of that nature, and have probably just thought of it as like, oh yeah, those the people with the monkey pictures and stuff like that and all that nonsense. But there's a really deep technology that's on the backside of that. And one of the best and one of the original use cases that the reason why they made that technology was for voting mechanisms, and also for they had the thought of this could eventually be used for real estate. And the idea is when you have a blockchain, is everybody familiar with that, or what that even is?
Everybody knows how blockchain works? No? Yes?
Or kind of
Can
know?
you give us a quick overview of blockchain? I feel like people are familiar that it does actually work and integrate in the real estate industry, but not necessarily the details of it. Can you give us a quick one?
Yeah, I mean, you could just pretty much think of a blockchain like a distributed ledger. It's kind of like a glorified list of transactions, and there's a state. State meaning that, like, if we think about right now, if the state of the blockchain right now was let's say you have $20, you have $20, I have $20. That's the current state, right? And then I could essentially, you could send her $10, right? Or you could send me $10. And then that change would then get recorded, and it would actually be, it would be recorded on the blockchain, and then the state of the chain would change. So that's pretty much all it is. Just the fact that I have some data here, and I have a collected list of transactions. Which, if you're thinking about real estate already, you're thinking about, oh, okay, well, let's think about if we had a blockchain specifically just for real estate transactions. Okay, well, you bought my house, and now I record that Liberty owns the house, right?
I like that.
And
Yes.
yeah, of course you love that. So you own the house, then you want to go ahead and you want to sell it to the next person. So I can verify on the blockchain that you are 100% the owner of the property, have the right to sell it, right? And so the title company can make that verification and attest to it, and do that relatively quickly, with the knowledge that there's no way to be able to be fraudulent in that way, because the way a blockchain works is there's cryptography that's attached to it as well. And I'm trying to not get too over technical, so hopefully I don't. But essentially, if I make a transaction, right, and then Liberty makes a transaction, right, it's going to also record all of the previous transactions and do this special mathematical master thing called hashing. It's going to make a hash of all the previous transactions. If any of those previous transactions are tampered with, it actually changes the hash, and so it invalidates the entire chain. So if you change anything along the way, you can never go back to an old transaction and tamper with it. If you tamper with it, you will invalidate every transaction that came after it. So it makes it tamper resistant. The only way to actually tamper with it is at the time of insertion, which is any fraud that you hear happens at the time that you actually put it onto the chain. So if you were to, let's say, for example, the same way how we have, every single county has a registry, et cetera, or whatever, that keeps track of all land transactions, you could actually make that a little bit simpler by using a blockchain in order to do that. And it's maybe more difficult to build it, but very easy to operate. As be the operator that actually goes in, logs on the computer, and says that I am me. Let me verify that I'm me, that I'm somebody that can attest to transactions, and I'm going to say that this transaction happened. And so now you'll know that ABC title company that's registered with the government said that that transaction is valid. You don't have to check anything else because every other transaction before has been verified. So that's like something like that would actually, did I go too far over? No? Okay, cool. All right. Well, something like that would be something that has already been talked about in plenty of conversations, plenty of meetings that I've been in where I've heard people talking about doing that, and I see it happening soon. And it has nothing to do with using Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of that. It's just using that same technology in another way, because there's other applications of blockchain besides cryptocurrency and random monkey pictures and nonsense like that.
I feel like sometimes people kind of zone out when you say cryptocurrency, but they do kind of perk up when you say blockchain, because the use case that you just gave is absolutely, did everybody understand that? Okay, perfect. Excellent. So I love this audience. This is the South by Southwest audience right here. This is why we have the PropTech house. So tell me this, when we're looking at different use cases and we're talking about blockchain and the one what you're looking at as far as the management of title and transfer and ownership, do you think this streamlines the process where we can reduce the specific workforce and increase efficiencies in that? Because I know you said title companies will still be there, but will it be at the scale that it is now? What do you think?
I think that most title companies I go into don't have that many people working there anyway. But at the end of the day, I think that it'll take away some need to have as many people, but it also will lower the barrier of entry. There could probably be more title companies than exist now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so that, who knows what that is.
But that's
We
what
don't-
technology does in general.
Exactly.
It
exactly.
lowers the barrier to entry for so many things. It increases competition because now
Mhm.
you can be whatever that is, a creator, or I can be creative, anybody can. And then it goes to obviously skill and brand and how you're going to build your business on that. One of the things that I think is interesting and I think that people want to walk away with is how could they embrace? Because again, we talked about the fear of is this technology, whether it be AI or machine learning or data, how can they say, hey, you know what? I don't fear this. I understand this. I want to be alongside of it or leverage it in my business. What are some of the ways that they could do that?
Yeah, if you want to be alongside it, you just want to be there for the journey and help it happen. We're in a capitalist society, whether that's positive or negative, depending on your opinion. You definitely can invest in companies that that are coming out that are using these technologies. You can go to somewhere, even if you're not an accredited investor, you can go somewhere like WeFunder or Republic or something like that. Find things that excite you, and you can, help.
I like the answer.
Help move those forward. In the sense of if you want to actually be an active participant in it, there's two different ways. Of course, you could actually learn about these technologies and learn how to operate with these technologies, learn how they work. Whether you know how to build blockchain stuff or not, you can utilize the technology to do stuff. Like there's plenty of things that are available that aren't even like cash intensive, etc., that you can go ahead and do when it comes to blockchain technology that isn't putting $100,000 up and a bunch of stuff like that. And of course, there's also just also if you want to dive super deep and you want to actually you have ideas and you have things that you believe that if you talk to the right people that you can get them built, then start to communicate with people like that because I'm not that great at coming up with new ideas. But I'm the person but what I actually do as my job is you come to me with an idea and I tell you if that's possible and I tell you how we can build it. That's what I do. So that's a plug for me. That's what I do for a living. So you come to me and you say I want to go ahead and I want to build A, B, C, and D. Matter of fact, 7th Ave, a company that we raised $3.2 million in venture capital. When my friend actually came to me and talked to me about it, he was kind of like, I don't know if this is even possible for us to be able to do it. He's like, I want to do A, B, C, and D, and he really, it was there was some curse words involved, stuff like that. Things that he said, it's like, yo, I think we could do that. I was like, well, this is how we could do A, B, C, and D, and I was like, let's get on Zoom, and I drew it out for him. He's like, yo, we could actually do this, and then, I went ahead and showed him how we could go ahead and put together, and the rest is history. And I've had plenty of conversations like that. So find somebody that can take your idea, whether it sounds crazy or it doesn't sound crazy, and go ahead and do it. The company that I'm about to start at as a lead for their software team, they take satellites, they launch it into space. It's just somebody's idea to go ahead and do that to be able to give people internet. At the end of the day, it's getting done now. So nothing is too crazy. You just need to find the right people that have the right expertise to be able to do the thing that you want.
I would say that too. And as we close out, one of the things that I would say as far as if you are here and you are interested in the real estate space, and not just real estate, because I don't want you to think of real estate as in residential and strictly commercial, but we're here to talk about PropTech, which is all things disrupting the real estate
Airbnb
industry. I was just going to say that because a lot of people think, oh, I'm not into PropTech, and we're looking at tools and technology that transforms how you interact with the built world. Airbnb is an excellent example of a highly successful PropTech company, and that changes how you engage, interact, and live with the space. And stay tuned for our last panel that talks about the shareable economy. I'm really excited about that. One of the things that, as we close out, that I would say, if you are someone who wants to increase your efficiency and really get into the PropTech space, go to theproptechhouse.com. That's what I would say. Go to theproptechhouse.com, and we have resources there in connecting with amazing people that can help you build out the tools, because I personally don't feel like real estate professionals should be on the outside of the conversation. I'm typically on your side of the conversation, where it's the tech side of the conversation with the VC funding, but I feel as though people that are actually executing should be invited to the table and they should be invited to either invest in PropTech companies, acquire PropTech companies, or start and build their own technologies that they can leverage as we go forward in the future. Thank you so much, Arthur, for this conversation. We really appreciate you guys so much. And again, I'm Liberty Madison, and this is the PropTech House.